Hey, what's good, everyone? It's Solskjaer Post. How you all doing? And today I'm joined by a very special guest. It's Phil Egan. What's going on, mate?
How you doing, sir?
Yeah, very well. How's your lockdown been over there? Is it all good, or are you beginning
Yeah,
to get back to normal?
you guys are ahead of us. I mean, there's a lot of envy the last couple of days, especially the Monday pints that you guys got to take part in. We haven't got that at all. We're just so far behind in terms of the vaccine and restrictions. For the last few weeks, like we haven't been able to go within outside 5 kilometers of our house, but a lot of people are just doing it anyway. Look, if they do it responsibly, they don't advertise it. But that was extended to 20 kilometers the other day. So yeah, it's rinse and repeat. It just seems like you get up, you go to work. I'm one of the lucky ones that I get to actually go into the office, which makes a big difference because for the first part of the lockdown, for the first 10 weeks, I was working at home, and it just feels like you never get to leave the house. And even when you sit around the house, it just reminds you of being in the office. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's good to get out of it.
Well, I went to a restaurant yesterday for the first time in
Yeah,
God knows how long, but we had to sit outside and it was freezing. So,
yeah,
it's not normal, but people are taking advantage. They're having a drink. You can go to the pub, drink outside. So it's a
yeah.
little bit better at the moment in London, where I am at the moment. So it's getting there. It's just winding down, isn't it? I can't wait for it to be over. To be honest with you,
Yeah,
just
big
things
time.
get back to normal. We can go to games, go to football, and enjoy ourselves. So today I would like to just talk about my team, Man United, if possible. I wanted to know your opinions on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He's had a decent season. He steadied the ship,
Yeah.
second in the league. Um, where do you think United go from here? Do you think he's the manager to take us to the next step, which is challenging for the league and the Champions League?
Well, first things first, I think Solskjaer deserves great credit because we obviously know how well things went when he came in. And, part of me thought with that was there was just a relief that Mourinho was gone. Just ask Tottenham fans now what it's like to have Mourinho managing it. It's hell. And when he left, after that defeat at Anfield and he left Pogba on the bench, it was just that relief that United fans and the players were like, look, he's gone now and we don't have to deal with him. Solskjaer came in, club legend, just walking around with a smile on his face. The players had that freedom now that Mourinho was gone, and he got the contract on the back of that impressive run when he took over. There's been a lot of hiccups since, and you think back to just the other day, they beat Tottenham. They come from behind to beat Tottenham. But the significance of that was earlier in the season, they got hammered by Tottenham, and not for the first time. It felt like Solskjaer was almost on the brink where it's like they have to get rid of him. They're going nowhere because they'd started the season so slowly. But Solskjaer had said himself that, like Manchester City, United were in the latter stages of a European competition last season. Their pre-season was curtailed. Most clubs obviously had that with COVID, but United's was even worse. And they just weren't up to it. And we saw that with their game against Palace. But as the season's gone on, I mean, their away form is sensational. Haven't lost away from home in the league. Been behind 8 times and come back and won. Obviously, the latest one against Spurs. So I think he's definitely silenced a lot of critics. He became a bit of a. There was a lot of people mocking Solskjaer, the PE teacher, and he's a club legend. But would he get a job at any other big club in the Premier League? And I still don't think that will be the case. If Manchester City were looking for a new manager now, they're not going to turn around and say, do you know who we need? We need Solskjaer. But they are going in the right direction. And only time will tell if he can bring them to that next level. The Europa League, I thought last season was a great opportunity. I feel even stronger about it this season for United that they've one foot in the semi-final. I thought Ajax were the tricky team to look out for. Ajax might be taken out of. Roma might do them a favour. They're obviously 2-1 up from the first leg. And then United, they're at that semi-final stage. And that's where they've tripped up. But sometimes you're not good enough. You think if they play Manchester City in the semi-finals of the League Cup, City are the best team in the country at the moment. And you think back to the game last season against Sevilla. Sevilla are a good team. So they do need to get the trophy. And then he can point to the fact that he's got a winning mentality in this squad. But if they come up short in the Europa League, there's still going to be questions over it. But I hope as well what they do, obviously, when the season is done, is they get their business done soon. They don't have sagas. And already there's talk of Erling Haaland. I mean, we obviously know what happened with Sancho last season. But if they're going to do any business, they got to get it done quickly.
Yeah, totally agree. It's getting to that type of that big time of the season where United start having rumours. We're going to sign this player, we're going to sign that player. I don't know whether it's a smoke screen or not. But what do United need to take us to that next level? Obviously, you've got Man City. They're way ahead at the moment. I mean, there's talks of them signing Haaland as well. I mean, there was Haaland and Grealish the other day. They were going after, apparently. What do United need to do to close the gap? Because City are so far ahead at the moment. It doesn't look like they're gonna be stopped this season, next season even. United, they confuse me. Sometimes it looks like they can beat anyone on their day.
Yeah.
They can beat anyone on their day. It's just the consistency which is key. Is there anything you would suggest that for a United fan or United manager that will improve United and help us be more consistent in the league?
I think the big thing is a central midfielder, someone that runs the game. Obviously, another thing actually, which I didn't mention, which Solskjaer deserves credit for, is how he's handled the whole Paul Pogba thing. But Paul Pogba's not that player. Paul Pogba's not somebody like Luka Modric or Toni Kroos, who obviously we saw how good they were for Real Madrid last week against Liverpool, where they can control the tempo of the game. Paul Pogba does his best work when he is close to the opposition goal, where you saw what he did for the goal against Tottenham the other day, the goal that he set up, where the twinkle toes and that's where you want Paul Pogba. Like McTominay and Fred are good players in the right, but they're not going to control games. They're almost like they're stoppers. They'll work hard for you. They'll break things up. McTominay actually chips in with goals. I know Fred obviously scored, which surprised a lot. Scored the other day, but McTominay is a good strike in him. But they need that midfield general in there. I look at the back four. Even though the back four, like defensively, when you look at the record, it is very good. But to go to the next level, someone like Wan-Bissaka is. I don't think there's a better one-on-one defender in the Premier League than Wan-Bissaka. But sometimes I question his positioning. I would say the same about Maguire. Then I would worry if United are trying to progress and squeeze teams and play a higher line. I would worry about Maguire and Lindelof. There was signs that Eric Bailly was starting to come into the form that United pay that money for, but he's not reliable. He gets injured all the time. So I think they still need, in fairness, Luke Shaw has been brilliant this season. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't end up as the left back on the team of the season. He's obviously going to go to the Euros with England as well. So Luke Shaw needed to kick up the backside that he got when Telles was signed. I think they can get a better right back than Wan-Bissaka, even though I think he's an exceptional one-on-one defender. We don't know if Dean Henderson is good enough to step into David De Gea's gloves or his boots, because only time will tell. It's a big difference playing for Sheffield United and Manchester United. And I think they need a really top-class striker. I think Cavani showed the other day what a top-class striker does, the movement, everything, and you're on it every week. We've seen Martial blow hot and cold. I'm a big fan of Rashford. I prefer Rashford playing on the left-hand side. And obviously then you've got Bruno Fernandes in there. So, the makings of a really, really good starting 11. But there's still, I suppose, the optimism is that there is plenty of room for improvement. That can be a good thing, because if you felt United have reached the ceiling now and they're still this far off Man City, that would be a worry. But they got to get the right players in. They've obviously tried to sign. They signed Donny van de Beek last season. Last summer, I thought he was going to be a brilliant signing. It just hasn't worked out at the moment, and you wonder, has he got a future at the club?
Do you feel like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has given him that opportunity to prove himself? I mean, I'm not sure why he's not playing him myself. Maybe he doesn't fit into his tactics. I'm not sure. But I know that I've seen Van der Beek and I've seen him run midfields in the Champions League against Real Madrid, etc. Do you feel like that he's been a little bit unfair on players such as Van der Beek?
It's tough because Van der Beek, and I know you could play him in a deeper role, but he does like to be a bit more advanced. And how can you leave Bruno Fernandes out? Like, Bruno Fernandes is the key man. He's the star player for United, and look what he's done since he's come in. So often when Van der Beek comes in, I feel sorry for him because he's almost like has to prove from the first minute that he's up to it, and then I think his confidence doesn't. He's lacking confidence. You can see he's playing a lot of safe passes, not really trying to break lines, and it's almost like he's just trying to get through games without making any mistakes. And that's not the kind of player that Manchester United need. They need somebody that's willing to take risks, which Bruno does. Bruno gives the ball away, but you don't mind that because he's trying something different where he's going to play a quick ball, try and catch out the opposition defence. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's worth taking that risk because when it does work, more often than not, it can lead to a goal. So Van der Beek, I don't know, was there conflict there where Solskjaer didn't want him? And maybe this was a signing that was done over his head, and maybe that's why the recruitment, and they've obviously changed their approach in terms of what they're going to do. Darren Fletcher's got a new role. Maybe Solskjaer will have more of a say in the players that he signs. These are the kind of things that will come out when Solskjaer eventually leaves Manchester United. He'll be asked about Donny Van de Beek, and especially if Van de Beek ends up leaving and then shows with a different club how good he is. But it can also be systems as well, that United are at their best when they play in the counter-attack, and Bruno Fernandes probably has that killer pass better than Van de Beek, whereas if you've got Bruno Fernandes picking a ball out to Greenwood or Rashford or whoever on the break, that's more effective than what Van de Beek does. He played in a team that was used to having possession for the whole game, and you can just keep the thing ticking over. It doesn't necessarily work with Manchester United.
Do you feel like, bringing it back in regards to Darren Fletcher and John Murtough now, do you feel there's too much nostalgia at the club? They got too many ex-players in and around the club, for example, Michael Carrick. Do you feel like United needs someone experienced in that role to take them forward tactically? Because Donny van der Beek, regardless if Solskjaer wanted him or not, he's a fantastic player, and many teams in Europe would have wanted him. Real Madrid wanted him, you know. So do you feel like tactically we're lacking in regards to experience, having too many ex-players there, obviously?
Yeah, like that was the criticism of Solskjaer when he took on the job, that there was a lot of harping back to the Alex Ferguson years. But I mean, is that a bad thing when you consider how successful Ferguson was? I mean, his record was exceptional, and Solskjaer was part of that. So why not try and tap into that? But in terms of Solskjaer in big games, he's been generally pretty good. Obviously, the issue is those games. It's incredible to think that Manchester United lost to Sheffield United at Old Trafford this season. And I remember watching the game, and when you saw the Sheffield United team that night, Phil Jagielka was playing, guy's older than me. And he played that night, and United still lost that game. Incredible to think that this is a team that have recently just ended Manchester City's winning run, but they have those performances in them where they absolutely stink the place out. And it really makes no sense. And that's the frustration for Manchester United fans, where you don't know what you're going to get. We mentioned the Europa League. Think back to the Champions League, where they absolutely saunter their way through the first couple of games. They've taken out PSG. They obviously beat Leipzig 5-0. And you think that was a really tough group. And you think United are going to absolutely stroll this. And inexplicably, they end up in the Europa League. So they're so hot and cold. It's about that consistency, and until Solskjaer wins a trophy, there's always going to be question marks about him. But
100%. I mean, obviously, I think we won our first 3 games in the Champions League and ended up going out. It's unheard of, And we had Istanbul Başakşehir, which are a relegation candidate in Turkey. I think we needed 3 points from our last 3 games or something like that, and he didn't get it. Do you think that's something to do with discipline? Do you think Solskjaer's too nice? I mean, He seems very happy and smiley. The good thing about Alex Ferguson, I know it's unfair to compare him to Alex, but Alex was versatile, and he always demanded the 100% from his players, and he weren't always. He had adjusted his personality. He weren't always nice. He had an angry side to him. Do you think Ole lacks that, and that rubs off in the team sometimes when they're a little bit complacent against the Sheffield Uniteds, the Crystal Palaces of this world?
Yeah, well, also as well, what we need to mention with those kind of teams where they struggle against, it's those teams that sit deep and basically take away that space, because obviously if you give United space in behind, then that's where the likes of Rashford and Martial and Greenwood will absolutely thrive, because they have players like Pogba and Bruno Fernandes who can put a ball in there. So it's a different kettle of fish trying to unlock that basically 8 men behind the ball and trying to find that pass through the eye of a needle. It's not that easy. What baffles me sometimes, even thinking back to the game on Sunday, is how poor United were in the first half an hour against Spurs. They get the goal, which was a brilliant goal. It's disallowed. Son goes around play acting, then Son scores, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, that face on him when that happened, he looked so angry. And it's almost like they just went in at halftime, and it's like he just said to the players, we've been absolutely shafted here. Let's go out now and put that into getting the 3 points. And they were brilliant in the second half. Sometimes I think it takes United to go a goal down to spark them into life, and there's something wrong in that. That shouldn't be the case. You should be on it from the start, where we know how good United are on the counter attack. So if United score an early goal, what's not to say that they could absolutely hammer teams, because then they have the ability to be able to just sit a bit deeper and say to the opposition, all right, you come at us and seeking to break us down, and we're going to pick you off in the break.
Why do you think United have a habit of starting slowly? It's happening all too often, and we've been punished a few times in regards to it. And when you play the semi-finals, when you play in finals, you need to start good. You need to start well, because you let the team into the game. They'll score a goal, and then it's an uphill battle from there. Why do you think United are starting slow? Do you think that is due to the management, coaching staff, hyping the players up before the game? Are they a little bit complacent in regards to that?
Could be a few factors. Obviously, when things don't go well, it tends to get the manager's the one that gets the stick. But you have to wonder on the pitch, who's there, who's demanding. Like, somebody gives the ball away after 2 minutes, who's getting onto them saying that doesn't happen again? Who's demanding that the pace is, the tempo is set from the start? I think the players have to demand that as well. I think if you look at all those great United teams, they had players that were vocal, that they just wouldn't accept second best. If you came out of a tackle, a 50-50 tackle, if you came off second best, you would know about it from your own players. So that just drives you on to be the best. And sometimes I wonder, is there a complacency there where some of the players look around and they see all the talent and they think, yeah, we're better than these, and we're gonna win this game, and it doesn't go that way. And as I said, sometimes the best performances we've seen from United are when they go behind and they roll up the sleeves, and they can be so streaky at times. They really are just a very hard team to work out, where 1 week they can be so ordinary and Solskjaer is trending on social media, Ollie out, and then the next week they're sensational, and it's like, yeah, this is the guy that can bring back the glory days. So I think Solskjaer has made mugs of a lot of us, where everyone's flip-flopping. But what I would say is he has surprised me in how well things have turned around for them this season. And the icing on the cake, obviously, would be to get that trophy. And the Europa League is not something to be sniffed at, because it gives you confidence. And also, as well, players want to come and play for Manchester United if they're winning trophies.
Do you think it will be an acceptable season if Ole gets second place but no trophy? Do you think that's acceptable this season? That'll be 4 years without a trophy for United.
I think if they don't get a trophy and they finish second, it just ramps up the pressure. I think if they finish second and they win the Europa League, there'll be a feel-good factor around the club. And then for some reason, things just have a strange way of working out where it might seem the players that they want to sign, the deals get done early. Whereas anxiety starts to kick in if they don't win a trophy and finish second, and people think, why are we here another summer and the deals haven't been done? But it's going to be a tough summer to get deals done. You've got a few things. You've obviously got the Euros going on, but you've got clubs that have no money. Now, Manchester United are not one of those clubs. It should suit Manchester United, but some of the top players are still going to be demanding a massive fee. I mean, Roy Keane was on TV the other day talking about Harry Kane going to Manchester United. Now, if Harry Kane goes to United, that's an unbelievable signing. But United don't want to get into negotiations with Daniel Levy and Tottenham. It's like that's got saga written all over it.
150 million for 20. He's going on 28 now. Harry Kane. Would you spend the money on him? I know United are desperately missing for a few years now. A guy who could score you 30 goals a season every season. But do you feel like he's a little bit over the bridge, a little bit in regards to his age for that price?
Joe, see, the price tag is something that really gets thrown at the players. It's not as if United fans are going to think we've paid too much, because it's the club that's paying for it. And it's the same with Harry Maguire. The 80 million only gets brought up tends to be opposition fans. If Maguire makes a mistake, they're like, oh, I paid 80 million for him. But the bottom line is Maguire has made United better at the back since he's come in. Now, whether he can bring them to the next level where they win Premier League titles, that remains to be seen. With Harry Kane, if he comes into the team, he makes them a better team. 150 sounds like a hell of a lot of money when you think that if Erling Haaland goes, he might cost that money, but he's a lot younger. What I would say that the good thing about Harry Kane is that he's shown in the last couple of seasons is he's got the game now to adapt to. He's had a few ankle injuries. He's had the odd hamstring problem, that he can drop deep and turn into a creator as well. So, he is the kind of player that can fit into any of those top teams. If Manchester City signed Harry Kane, they would find a role for him. Like, obviously he'd score goals, but also he would fit into a front three with them where he can drop deep and provide goals as well. So, yeah, he's an exceptional striker. So I think he would solve a lot of problems for United. Obviously, there's question marks over Cavani, whether he wants to stay or not. And, Cavani's not getting any younger. But I would hope that with Cavani at the club for the last year, that the players around him would have learned a lot from him. The likes of Mason Greenwood, the likes of Rashford, but in particular Greenwood, where you actually, watching the game the other day, you could hear Cavani say to Greenwood, get the cross in quicker. And the first thing he does after that is puts in the cross for the diving header. So, yeah, it's great experience for the likes of Greenwood to play alongside somebody of Cavani's caliber.
It was a very Cavani-esque goal, that one from Greenwood, wasn't it? The header. I haven't seen Greenwood do that yet, in his short career at United. Looking ahead to the game on Thursday, Granada, it's an opportunity for United maybe to rest a few players. Would you change anything in regards to the starting lineup in that game? 2-0 up from the first leg. Granada didn't look like they gave us too many problems. Old Trafford. Or do you think we should play the full strength side in that game?
Well, I think he will play full strength, because you think back to the Sociedad tie, 4-0 up, and he baffled a lot of people with his team selection that night, because you got to wrap Bruno Fernandes in cotton wool for later in the season, where this is like United's first 11 is pretty good. But then obviously as you go down through the squad and you start bringing in players, you start to lose a bit of that quality. So Solskjaer is probably very conscious of that you could make Thursday night a bit trickier than it should be, where Granada have had an unbelievable run, but they're not a team that you would imagine are capable of scoring 2 or 3 goals at Old Trafford. But even if they score first, then all of a sudden there's a bit of tension in it. Whereas Solskjaer might think, strong team, let's try and score first, and then I can start taking off players in the second half and get them ready for the rest of the season, and say potentially big semi-final against whether it's Roma or Ajax. I still think there's a chance Ajax could still come through that one. But yeah, he tends to go strong. I remember even back in the FA Cup last season, he played Bruno Fernandes in a game against Norwich where you thought you don't need to play him. But it's also as well the danger when you take players out. Sometimes you can affect the rhythm of the team. And that's where he maybe has to trust some of those squad players.
Yeah, because the injury on Rashford, I mean, there have been times when he could have been rested. And, it can harm a player long term, playing 60, 70 games a season, every season. Alex Ferguson was the master at it. He used to rotate his squad brilliantly to a T, and he would give everyone an opportunity. Do you think that Ole is a little bit fearful of changing his team, changing a winning team? Do you think he doesn't trust some of those players, or is it just a little bit of a fear going on in regards to Ole?
I think it could be a bit of both, where the fear comes from maybe not trusting those players to be as influential as his quality players. And Rashford is a good example of a guy that needs to be rested. He's very young. He's an explosive player. He makes a lot of sprints throughout the game, and we obviously know the speed of him. And I think there's still so much more potential with Rashford. I actually think if you had better players around them in attack, you could see even more from Rashford. As I said, I prefer him on the left. I think a player cutting in on the left, right footer, obviously, when you open that space up, you have more of a target to shoot at. We obviously have seen him play on the right hand side a few times. He's just not as effective. I think to the night of the Burnley game at Turf Moor, he set up Pogba's goal from the right, but up until that, he hadn't had a great game. He's just so much more dangerous on the left hand side because he can skin a fullback on the outside, but also if he cuts inside, he has such a good shot in him that the danger signs are there as well. Plus, when he runs into the box at that speed, you can't go near him because he's that quick that if you mistime it, then you're giving away a penalty.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like Ole's played him way too much. I mean, he's injured now, and it could be a long-term injury. It can harm a player. It's almost criminal, in my opinion, that he's playing him so much, not resting him. Do you feel like Ole needs to trust in his reserve players a little bit more? I mean, obviously, you've got for Donny van der Beek. I still think Donny can play in the Rashford position. I don't know about you, but I think he can play in the front three. Because he's that technically gifted that I feel like, he can play anywhere on the pitch. Maybe Ole needs to experiment a little bit and stop overplaying players, because when it gets to this time of the season when we need them and they're going to be injured, which Rashford clearly is. Do you feel like it's almost, I wouldn't say a sackable offence, but it's criminal and it's bad game management? Because he has got a problem with his in-game management. This is Ole. That, in my opinion, his biggest issue is his in-game management. Do you think that he needs to rotate his squad, and it's important that the games against Granada, for example, are demonstrated in regards to rotating? He should be rotating the squad tomorrow or Thursday.
Yeah, I think he should rotate, and there's no harm in leaving the lads on the bench, the other players. And if it's not going well, then you have the firepower. Plus, it's a European game; you have 5 substitutions, so you can make the changes. I mean, didn't he bring on 5 players? Didn't he make 5 substitutions last season in the Premier League when there was 5 substitutions in the Premier League last season? In terms of Van der Beek, if you played him in that front three, I think what you take away then from United at their best is he doesn't have that pace in behind defenders. So defenders are going to be much happier playing against Van der Beek in an advanced role than they would Rashford. Rashford puts fear into defenders because they know if a United midfielder is given time on the ball and they can pick out a pass, and if Rashford's gone in behind you, good luck, you're not catching him. But yeah, Rashford definitely needs to be rested more. In terms see, you can bring in players and they don't do the same job. Like Martial must be one of the most frustrating players, where some days brilliant, other days looks like he doesn't care. Like his head is just somewhere else. We know how technically gifted he is, but he certainly is one that divides opinions among Manchester United fans. And you got to ask yourself, if they sold him in the summer and they got a decent price from him, would they miss him?
I feel like I mean, I love Martial, but
Yeah,
you're 100% right. He's probably the most inconsistent player I've ever seen at United. Sometimes he's a world beater. The other times he's, as you said, he doesn't look interested. Probably why he's not always a consistent starter at France with the France national team.
yeah.
You get Giroud, players like that who play ahead of him. I would cash in on him. I don't know how much we'll get for him now, but I would definitely cash in on him. But we need a replacement. I don't want us doing the Lukaku thing where we get rid of Lukaku and then we don't replace him, because the Glazers have a habit of not replacing players when they sell them. Do you think the Glazers are a problem at United? I mean, obviously, it's worldwide known that the Glazers it divides opinion. Do you think they've done a good job at United, or do you think United need to look for pastures new in regards to the ownership?
Oh, I think United would be better off without them. But the risk there is if you get rid of them, you got to make sure the guys coming in for them are better. And obviously, Fergie was such a genius that kind of papered over some of the cracks that the Glazers had there. Where like the Glazers are obviously just they're interested in money, as are so many club owners in the Premier League. But and that's what frustrates United fans, where it's almost like once they're in the Champions League, they think that's fine, but that's not good enough for United. United are now looking at 2013 since they won the league last, and there's a fair chance they finish second, but at no point really. There was a bit of talk about it in January, but at no point have United looked like winning a league title since Fergie left.
No, not at all. This year, obviously, we got the Champions League tonight, which is sickening as a United fan, because I really miss these nights. The quarterfinal, semi-final stages. Obviously, it's not packed stadium, but packed at Old Trafford. I remember going to Old Trafford Champions League nights. They're unmatched, unbelievable atmospheres. PSG against Bayern Munich, two are probably the best teams in Europe at the moment. How do you feel that Pochettino has fared at PSG? I just want to ask you, because he was highly touted to be United manager. In the French league, he isn't doing as well as people thought he would do. Do you feel like we escaped in regards to Pochettino, or do you feel like he needs time? Because it is. I wouldn't say it's an easy league, but it's a league that PSG expected to win every season, and he's not top of the league. Do you feel like he was not overrated, but do you feel like he was a little bit? We were a little bit too complimentary in regards to him.
Again, this is probably something that we'll come back to, because if he goes and wins the Champions League with PSG, then all of a sudden it was Tottenham that were holding him back. There is a fair chance they don't win Ligue 1. I mean, Lille are looking strong. They obviously got the result against PSG a few weeks ago. So there's a very good chance that PSG don't win the league, which straight away sets the alarm bells off, because that is the basics. You have to win the French title as PSG. There should be no ifs or buts. And that's not going to go down too well. Now, how you redeem yourself if you win the Champions League, then you go down as a club legend. But I'm not even confident that they'll get the job done against Bayern Munich. Munich created more chances last week, but obviously no Lewandowski, so they didn't have the same goal threat. Mbappe comes up with the winning goal, and PSG actually in home games this season have struggled. I mean, we still question whether they have that strength to get over the line in these really big games. So I think that's going to be a cracker of a game. That's the one I'm watching. Sometimes you try and dual screen them, but I think you're better off just focusing on one. You can always come back and watch the next game. And I don't find Chelsea particularly entertaining to watch. Maybe that'll change under Tuchel when he gets a bit more time, but it's just something about watching Chelsea at the moment. It's just not very exciting. So I think PSG and Bayern is the game to watch. If Poch wins the Champions League, then you'll have people going, why didn't United get him? They should have got him. But then you will have people saying, well, he didn't win anything with Tottenham. And I'm also of the opinion that not necessarily he had to win anything with Tottenham, because he brought them to a level that they weren't used to. Look what's happened since they've left. And he didn't get, he got them to a certain level. The last kick in them was almost that Ajax game where Liverpool fans were quite happy to be playing Tottenham in a Champions League final because they had a fair feeling that they were going to win the game. This, like, Spurs were kind of on the wane under Pochettino, and obviously that kicked into the following season, and Mourinho has taken it on, and yeah, they just seem to be getting worse. But Pochettino, if he had gone to United, like, it's a different pressure. It's like I mentioned with Dean Henderson earlier about being if he's going to be the United number one. It's a different animal altogether. And you can sign these players and you think that they're quality players, but then they come to Manchester United and they just can't do it. Because you can't just turn up and play one game every three and think you're a star. You have to be doing it week in, week out. You have to be at least a 7 or 8 out of 10 every week, rather than you throw in a 9 out of 10 performance and then you're 5 or 6 the next week. It has to be consistent. And that's the only way United will get back to the top. And as I said, it remains to be seen if Solskjaer is the man to do that. But you look at the managers that are winning trophies at the moment in the Premier League. They're the elites, the Pep Guardiolas, the Jurgen Klopps. Even Conte has gone from Chelsea, but look what he's doing with Inter Milan. He's going to absolutely walk Serie A this season.
Do you feel like it's looking like a high possibility it could be a PSG Manchester City final? Do you feel like what Manchester City and PSG are doing in their respective leagues is a good thing? I mean, spending lots of money to win the league. Do you feel like it's harming the teams below them? Do you feel like we could enter the realms of a Super League, end up because of the gap between the teams below, the top 4 and the top team?
Yeah, not only Manchester City, but the so-called Big Six, although there's been a bit of a breakaway with that in terms of Arsenal are no longer really that quality team that they were, and Leicester are trying to break into that. Obviously, we've seen West Ham this season, but I kind of feel, okay, Leicester obviously went to the last day last season, missed out in Champions League. They're holding on at the moment, but they might miss out again. But they're showing a bit of consistency that they're able to break into the top 6. What's not to say West Ham finish top 4 this season, but then lose a few players and then they go back to square one, whereas Manchester City are just relentless. The way I look at it, at the start of every season, Manchester City have the Premier League trophy and it's up to somebody to come in and take it off them. Liverpool managed to do it last season, but look at what's happened since the fallout. There's people who say they've had injuries, but some of those injuries and the fall off, it's almost like Liverpool absolutely put everything into trying to get to the top of the mountain. They got there and now they're absolutely shattered. Whereas City started the season slowly, and like sometimes they play they lost to Leeds at the weekend. If they wanted to win that game, I think they could have. They had all these players on the bench. He didn't bring them on because he didn't need to. He was looking at Dortmund. He knows he has a gap over United in the Premier League, that they just have an embarrassment of riches. That, remember the day they lost 5-2 to Leicester? It's the same day that they agreed the deal for Ruben Dias. They can go out and spend 60 million on a defender. Now, they don't go and spend 80 or 90 on players, but their recruitment is at a different level. Like someone like Ferran Torres has been hit and miss this season. What's not to say he'd be brilliant next season? Look at João Cancelo. People had almost written him off, a guy that they spent 60 million on from Juventus. He's been brilliant this season. Pep, but don't get me wrong, Pep's an incredible manager and he has money, but if you take Guardiola out of Manchester City, I don't think a different manager is not going to get the same results. But to go back to your original question, yeah, it is a concern that in a few years, I'm looking forward to watching PSG and Bayern Munich tonight because we're at the latter stages of the Champions League. But if this becomes the norm all the time, the novelty will go quick enough where you look forward to those really top games in Europe towards the end of the season. But if it's happening every week with a Super League, then eventually people just get bored of it.
It's a testament to Alex Ferguson, obviously, how hard it is to win the league more than once. Do you feel like Liverpool's downfall was because of last season. They put so much effort into winning the league last season. They've done really well. Obviously, they got to the Champions League final. They won the Champions League. Do you feel like there's a little bit of a decline with Liverpool now? And the Manchester City are going to end up champions again, obviously, and for the next foreseeable future?
Yeah, I said I think at the start of most seasons, funny enough, I thought at the start of this season with Liverpool signing Thiago, I thought that could be exactly what Liverpool need to retain the title. But Van Dijk got injured and that just changed everything. Saying that, I don't think Jurgen Klopp can be, I don't think he can hold his hands up and say that he can be exempt from criticism, because I know he's won the league with Liverpool, but at the same time, I think he's made plenty of mistakes this season in terms of team selection, trying to play the same way without the same players. A high line is not going to work with the two they have at the moment with Kabak and Phillips. And it's only recently that he's decided to go back to actual central defenders in the heart of his defence. But yeah, also as well, that team, it's almost like it got to the top, and some of those players just they hit the peak of their powers, and they're just not at it at the moment. You look at the two fullbacks, they needed to be rotated out a bit this season. That hasn't happened. The front three, Salah's still banging in goals. Firmino, obviously, the lack of goals was there last season. Mane, it's like somebody has just cast a spell on him and turned them into an average footballer, because I know he had COVID earlier this season, but he just looks so bereft of confidence, and he's almost trying too hard, where he just keeps losing the ball. And in terms of that game against Real Madrid tomorrow night, I wouldn't start Mane. I would think bring Firmino in, play Jota on the left, and leave Mane on the bench, and bring Thiago in. The Naby Keita experiment last week didn't work, but saying that, I still think Liverpool won't get past Real Madrid. They might have a chance if they had a massive crowd at Anfield. You mentioned, atmosphere and big European nights, but it's all a bit strange with these games behind closed doors. You don't really know what you're going to get.
I would have put my money on Liverpool if the crowd were there. I mean, I feel like the crowd pulled them through against Barcelona.
Yeah.
When they came from 3-0 down. I feel like there's nothing. Obviously, Anfield is on a different level when it comes to Champions League nights. The crowd are just, it's like a 12th man. And I feel like now Real Madrid would be confident. I feel like if they get one goal, Liverpool could win the game, but I don't think they're going to overturn a 3-1 deficit. Real Madrid are playing well at the moment. Who's your money on this season in the Champions League? Obviously, we've got Man City and PSG and Bayern. Who would you put your money on?
I think Real Madrid could be the one that surprises a few. Obviously, they'd fancy their chances of obviously getting through to be playing Chelsea in a semi-final. I think Real Madrid would be confident enough they can get it. Now, they're pretty threadbare in terms of their starting 11. They've picked up a few injuries. Obviously, Varane was ruled out last week with COVID, but they're getting the job done. Obviously, they beat Barcelona at the weekend, so I think Real Madrid will reach the final. So then, I always wanted to see what would happen between Bayern Munich and Manchester City. I thought, especially over two legs, it could be sensational. But obviously, PSG might have thrown a spanner in the works. But saying that as well, have City definitely tied? Got the game done and dusted against Borussia Dortmund. Dortmund need a goal. Now, if that game was being played in front of 80,000 people, I'd give Dortmund a better chance. But I just wonder, I think it's the one thing that they want so much is the Champions League, Manchester City. And it's been something that's been thrown at Pep Guardiola a few times, where he just completely overthinks it. Just get your best team on the pitch, and they should have too much for Borussia Dortmund, who just don't look that stable at the back. But there was signs last week where City were there for the taking, where they could concede. So, yeah, I think you're still looking at Manchester City as the favourites, but it's almost like I won't believe it till I see it. If they get to the final, I think they win. It's whether they can get there.
It's just that Pep Guardiola hasn't won the Champions League since he was at Barcelona, so he's due a Champions League title to solidify his stance in Europe. Obviously, he won all those titles and Champions League Barcelona, but winning it, he didn't win it with Bayern Munich. Winning it with Man City would solidify him as probably one of the greatest managers in European football. Obviously, that Barcelona side was, I mean, I remember playing Barcelona as a United fan. It was like you're chasing shadows, that team. It was impossible. No team I can remember would beat him, like any great United side. They were just unbelievable, and I feel like if he implements that with Man City and they win I hope they don't. The quadruple, it's bears thinking about. If they win the quadruple, it'll just be unbelievable, just deleting our history, treble.
Yeah, I don't know about that though, because I don't know if this is a question I've been asking a few people over the last few days. If obviously United won the treble in '99, if City win a quadruple in a season that's played behind closed doors and is COVID affected, is that a greater achievement than United's treble?
I don't think it'll ever be, because of the way we did it. I think Sir Alex Ferguson won it with kids almost. Yes, he spent a bit of money, but he did win it with kids, and he won it. Majority of the team were with the youth team. So I feel like it will never be matched, but obviously media, the hype around Man City. Treble was a long time ago for Man United, and it's the here and now what they're going to concentrate on, and obviously it's going to be very hard to take if they do win a quadruple. Obviously they got a lot of money, they bought it, of course, but you have to also, you can't just buy a team and win the league and win a Champions League. You need a management as well, and I hope they don't. I hope Man City don't. I know that's a bit controversial in regards to English teams and stuff like that, but it looks that way. I just got this feeling that they're going to do something this season big, and I won't be surprised if Chelsea do as well with Tuchel, because they're a dark horse, Chelsea.
You think in the Champions League,
Yeah, in regards to Champions League, I think it could be. I think Chelsea and Man City could meet. I've got this feeling, that.
It'll be interesting to see how the cup semi-final goes, because things were going so well for Chelsea. Then the West Brom game was just nuts, where nobody saw that coming. But then they replied, they bounced back from it, and they're very hard to break down. So they're not the most entertaining. I don't necessarily think that's Tuchel's fault. I think he's come in and he's just trying to make them harder to beat. You mentioned about having money to spend and doesn't necessarily lead to success. That was kind of the problem Lampard had. As soon as he was given that money, the pressure was on him, and they'd already lost 10 games, and you were kind of thinking, it's not going to work out. Tuchel comes in and just changes a few things, and they're definitely harder to beat. They'll obviously get through against Porto. They'll fancy their chances against Real Madrid, as will Real Madrid, if Real Madrid get by Liverpool, which I think they will. But whether they can beat City, maybe beating them in the cup at the weekend would be something it could be something that preempts what happens in a potential Champions League final. Still, funny enough, as bad as Mourinho and Spurs are, still think there's something in that League Cup final for them where it'll be horrible to watch. It'll be the ultimate bus parking Mourinho performance. But the one thing is, the players will buy into it on that day because there's silverware on the line. Whereas now, Spurs are obviously chasing European football. They needed to win on Sunday. They can't park the bus and expect to win games doing it like that. Whereas they've shown in the past under Mourinho that they can beat Manchester City. And then I do wonder, if City were to lose the League Cup final, would there be a knock-on effect?
I think so. I think there would be. I just don't see it. I mean, Mourinho, I feel like he's finished now. I just can't see him winning another trophy. I feel like his tactics are a little bit dated. I think he's already lost the dressing room, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, I will never forget one time I went to Old Trafford and I was sitting by the dugout, and I can't remember who missed the chance, but it was either Rashford or Lukaku missed the chance, and he turned around to the bench and said, "You see what I mean?" Rashford.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And I feel that it's not good for morale. And, a young player, which Rashford still is, I feel like he falls out with players too much. I just feel like he's fallen. And I think he's fallen out with a few of the Tottenham players now. I mean, taking him Ndombele to a park to do training as a punishment, for example, things like that. I just feel like he's had his day. Fantastic manager in his day, don't get me wrong, but I feel like his charisma's gone, because his charisma was something which made him, in my opinion. His cockiness, his arrogance, and his cheekiness. But I feel like he's become more miserable as seasons have gone by. Do you feel like this is his last opportunity to win something at Tottenham? And if he doesn't, that's the end of Mourinho, in your opinion?
Well, even if he does win the League Cup with Tottenham, here's one for Tottenham fans. Would you accept winning the League Cup and having to put up with Mourinho for another season? Or if you were told you lose the League Cup and he's just gone and that's it, and you can get another manager in? Because the thoughts of having Mourinho as your manager for another season must keep a few Tottenham fans awake at night. And yeah, there was a little phase in the season where things were going so well, where they had obviously hammered Manchester United, they'd beaten Manchester City, they'd beaten Arsenal. Since then, they actually haven't beaten a decent team in the league. And the problem is Mourinho, in his pomp, his team score, shut up shop, and that's it. Can't do that anymore because his players aren't good enough. But he gets frustrated then, and he gets catty, he starts taking out on his players, and he starts calling them out in public, and players aren't going to respond to that. Like, he got away with it at Chelsea because he didn't have to do it because they were so good. Mourinho, when he was in his prime, they were so far ahead. I can even remember a game when they were playing Villa at Stamford Bridge. Paul Lambert was the Villa manager. Roy Keane was the assistant. Mourinho went over to shake hands with them before the game finished because he knew they'd won. Almost to say, good game, lads. He could almost take off the last few minutes. Now, Roy obviously didn't shake hands with him. Roy kind of obviously thought, I don't know what you're doing. This game isn't over yet.
Disrespectful, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is disrespectful. And it's all part of the mind games, but that's all gone now. And the problem is when you're at the top and you're not nice to people, you can get away with it to a certain extent. But when you're on the way down, those people remember. And how fitting was it the other day when Mourinho came up to Luke Shaw and Solskjaer was there. Solskjaer was there almost to protect Luke Shaw, to say, like, almost say, you know, this is my boy. Look how good he's playing now. You nearly ruined the guy. I mean, if Luke Shaw ever brings out a book, the chapter and the index we're going for is Mourinho. What did he do to you? Because, you know, he deserves great credit for getting back up because he essentially bullied him, like, and just picked on him and talking about, oh, Luke played well in that half because I was on that side of the pitch and I talked him through the game. Like, how disrespectful is that?
Luke's been brilliant all season. He's been one of the best left backs in Europe.
Yeah, I know.
He doesn't want to give anyone any praise. That's the thing. He's a very bad loser, you know. And obviously, winners are bad losers, but you got to give credit where credit's due.
Big time,
You can't. I mean, someone like Luke Shaw has been probably a player of the season, and you know, saying those sort of things, it's just sour grapes. To be honest with you, with Mourinho, typical Mourinho. Obviously, he wanted to get one over on Ole. He didn't, and he lost the game. And you should just hold your hands up and say the better team won in the end. In the second half, I felt like over 9 minutes we were the better team and should have been 1-0 up in the first half. You know, should have won by more goals. Do you feel like United have a good chance of winning the Europa League this season? Okay, we're going to get top four. Looks that way. Do you feel like they have a good chance of winning the Europa League this season? Because we have a good record against Roma. If Roma do get through, we're beating Ajax if they get through in the Europa League before. It looks like I've got a feeling we could play Arsenal. Arsenal in the final would be unbelievable. I mean, Arsenal would be, and if that is the team I don't want to play because I couldn't stand losing to Arsenal, and it was just, you know, it would just be like the worst. I'd rather lose to Man City than Arsenal. That's how bad.
No. Do you know what? It's funny. I know Liverpool fans who felt that way about the Spurs Champions League final because, do you know what? You get ridiculed. You get absolutely ridiculed if Arsenal beat you in a final, and obviously they've taken 4 points off you in the league this season. As bad as, remember when they went to Old Trafford and they won and everyone was talking about Arteta, and then they went on that horrific run. So I don't know. Slavia Prague, they are a steely team. They've obviously taken Leicester and Rangers out of it. So Arsenal have a bit of work to do. and then it looks like you're going to get Arsenal and Villarreal and the Unai Emery, who's the master of the Europa League. So could be Villarreal in a final. I think if you could pick a team to play, you'd rather play Roma, I think, than Ajax. Because when Ajax are good, they're good. And they actually, they went ahead last week. They had their chances. And I don't think that one is dead yet. So I would think United, if they get Roma, they go to the final. If they get Ajax, obviously, I'd still have United as favourites, but it's a tougher game.
I actually fear Villarreal a little bit, because Villarreal have been really good this season in La Liga. Spanish teams, we ain't got a good record against Spanish teams. I feel if we get Villarreal in the final, it's going to be tricky. It's going to be a tricky game, because it's just that record we got against Spanish sides, and especially in finals with Barcelona games, etc. I feel like Roma, Arsenal would be a game. It's going to be a hard final, regardless.
Yeah.
But I don't want Arsenal. That's the thing. I could take losing to Villarreal, but I can't take losing to Arsenal.
Yeah. I know, and you're obviously you live in London. You probably know plenty of Arsenal fans.
Oh, mate.
You're one of those where you watch it, you close the curtains, and you just say a prayer and hope that they get through it. And I remember there was obviously the possibility a while back when United and Liverpool were in respective semi-finals of the Champions League. And I remember thinking the thoughts of the United-Liverpool Champions League final, it would just be horrendous. Be horrendous.
Not good for your anxiety, that one. It was just thinking about it was just, that was a couple of years ago, wasn't it? We had the possibility of playing Liverpool in the final. Yeah, I remember that. Losing the game will just go down in history, and they'll just go on and on, make DVDs about it, and it'd be crazy, So, the fingers crossed United do the business, and I want nothing more than for Ollie to succeed. He's a legend at the club, but I feel like if he doesn't, I feel like he should go. But then again, there is no managers out there who can take his place. We've got Nagelsmann, he's done a decent job. At Leipzig, who knows what he'll do at Man United? So it's a different.
Yeah, I think Nagelsmann. I mean, the talk out of Bayern Munich is that Flick wants out because he's just, and I'm pretty sure if he wanted the Germany job, he could get him, Hansi Flick. So if he goes in there, you would imagine Nagelsmann is the favourite for the Bayern job. I wonder, would they come after Klopp? Would Bayern make Klopp an offer he couldn't refuse and a chance to go back to Germany? Who knows? But you're right. Like, it's all well and good, these people that say get rid of Solskjaer, but who do you bring in? So people say, "Oh, bring in Pochettino." Not necessarily going to be a success. People have talked about Allegri. Is Allegri really an inspirational manager that could?
No, he's a defensive manager as well. He's defensive as well. Yeah, not for me.
The kind of managers that United want are currently managing Manchester City and Liverpool. They're the kind of managers that would suit United, that fans would absolutely love. But now, obviously, they don't, because they're managing their rivals. But I always think if you're going to get rid of a manager, make sure you have a good backup plan. Don't get rid of the manager unless you have the backup plan. Like, you got to think before you act.
Yeah, spot on. Phil, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for joining me today.
No worries, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. And enjoy the games tonight.
Will do. Enjoy your pints in London.
Yeah, or my wine.
Yeah. You can do that wherever. We have to do it at home.
Yeah, well, we have to book a table and everything like that.
Yeah. And
it's a bit cold outside, so it's a bit like it's not like you're sitting there cozy in a pub and you can have a drink, stay there all night. It gets really cold here, so it's.
Well,
good luck
we don't have long to wait. Yeah, thanks very much.
And hopefully we're back to normal soon, pal.
Yeah, nice one. Cheers, man.
Cheers.